y-axis, otherwise known as the y-intercept. Woohoo! All right, making big moves here. So let's see. State the slope and the y-intercept from each linear equation. Okay, so looking at the equations, and actually I'm going to use colors because it kind of helps me when I'm looking. I'm going to say that anytime I see and if you have two different colors, feel free to use them. So I'm going to say that anytime I see m, that coefficient of x, it's my slope. And anytime I see this plus or minus a number, I'm going to say that my y-intercept, I'm going to go over it in pink here. So I'm going to look at the equations and I am going to identify which one is my slope and which one is my y-intercept. So I know my slope is always with the x. It's the coefficient of x. And I know my y-intercept is always this number that's hanging out by itself. Okay? So looking at the equation for number 1, we have y equals negative 4x plus 12. Well, if I look at my y equals mx plus b, it looks to me that the number that's with my x, the coefficient of x, is negative 4, and this is plus b. Now, just like we always talk about with adding and subtracting integers, with combining like terms, it's really important that we look to the sign on the left of our number, okay? Because this plus 12, if you remember from the graphing calculator activity, tells me that I'm above the origin on the y-axis, okay? A minus would mean something very different. So my slope, my coefficient of x, is negative 4, which I know really, if you want to start thinking of it, rise over run, really means down 4 over 1. Okay, if that, if you want to start putting those kinds of things together. And then the y-intercept, where this equation would cross the y-axis, would be at positive 12. Okay, in other words, it would be crossing the ordered pair would be 0, 12. Okay, so we want to start making these relationships between slope, y-intercept, how it looks on a graph, how it looks in an equation, because we're going to be putting all of this together very shortly. All right, so at this point in time, I think it would be worth your advantage to pause the video to see how you can do on your own using your notes, and then come back with me and see how you did. Welcome back. Missed ya. All right, so y equals mx plus b. Y equals half x minus 1. All right, so my slope is 1/2, which means I'm rising 1, running 2. And my y-intercept, remember the sign to the left is really important, negative 1. In other words, the ordered pair would be 0, negative 1. How'd you do? Good, I'm so proud of you. All right, number 3, we've got y equals negative. Now, notice that I didn't use my purple pen here to do the x. I just was coloring or highlighting over the coefficient. So what's the coefficient if all I have is negative x? Good, negative 1, which is really the same as negative 1 over 1, if you want to make that relationship. And then I have plus 4, so positive 4. So it would be crossing the y-axis at 0, positive 4. How you doing? Good. All right, and here we don't have anything for me to go over in purple because I know that if there's nothing in front of the x, that just means the coefficient of x is 1, or a positive 1 over 1, which means, which means I'm going up 1 to the right 1. And my y-intercept is minus 9, negative 9, so I'd be going 0, down 9 on the y-axis. Whoops, sorry, you can't see that. Okay, so now we're going to put it all together. So exciting. We're going to take all of these notes and we're going to see if we can graph an equation from a line. So at this point, you now understand how to identify slope in a graph, how to identify the y-intercept, in an equation, what y equals mx plus b means, and now we're going to put it all together and see if we can take an equation and actually make the line. Now realistically, you could always make your xy table like we did in 1 and 2 on the front, right? We took our equation, we substituted in values for x to get our output, to get our y. But I'm going to show you how you don't need a table now because you are going to understand how to read these equations. Actually, I'm going to go through number 1 and 2 with my purple and my pink, and hopefully you guys are going to really start to see how this all comes together. Y equals mx plus b. I see my coefficient is 2. My y-intercept is -1. Well, -1, and then I'm going up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Awesome. Number 2, my slope was -1. My y-intercept, +3. I started up at +3, and then I was going down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1. And every time I'd make that down 1 over 1, I land. Down 1 over 1, I land. Down 1 over 1, I land. Okay? I'm going to ask that you, when you plot points and make a graph, I want you to make at least 3 points. How many points? At least 3 points. God, I'm so glad you're listening to me. All right, so let's see if we can put this all into play. Number 5. Y equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to continue to use my purple and my pink. I'm going to continue to see what my M and my B are. Actually, it's going to be really good if you start to get in the habit of writing down M equals and B equals. I'd love for you to be able to do that. It might even be on a quiz, maybe. So M is just my slope. So that would be my coefficient of x. So my slope is 2, which I know is really the same exact thing as 2 over 1. And my B, my y-intercept, is -3. So I know I'm going to be graphing this at 0, -3. Now make yourself a note. Make a star. This is really, really important. You always graph your y-intercept first. That is really, really, really crucial. Okay, you have to graph your y-intercept first, and then from there you can use your rise over run to graph at least 3 more points. Good, I'm glad that you wrote that down. Okay, so let's do it. Number 5. My y-intercept is at 0, -3. So I graph my y-intercept, and now I'm going to use my slope to graph my other 3 points. So my slope is 2, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and I can actually do another one, up 2 over 1. So notice that every time I land, that's where I start doing my rise over run to get to my next point. Take that straight edge and connect our line, our dots. And there we have it. We just used what we know about M and B to graph that line. All right, so pause the video. See if you can figure out M and B for number 6. And then come back and join me and see how you did. Oh, I missed you. Welcome back. So my coefficient of x is my slope, which is 2/3. Up 2 over 3, and my y-intercept is +3, so a +3, which means 0, +3. All right, I always graph my y-intercept first, so I am going at 0, 3, and I need to go up 2 over 3. Uh-oh, but I'm out of room. Well, luckily, I know with this positive slope that I should be having an increasing slope, a positive line. I can really actually start back here and go down and to the left, because I know down is negative and left is negative, and two negatives really make a positive. So I could go down 2, left 3. Down 2, left, oh, I'd be off the chart. Okay, so for this one, it's okay if you could only plot 2 points, okay? And notice, if I were to start from this dot, I could still check to make sure I did it right. Up 2 over 3. Up 2 over 3. Okay, so you should be able to start to notice, like, this is a straight line. Like, if I was to line this up with a straight edge, it's going to make one solid straight line. A ruler would be much nicer. Alright, so there we have it. At this point in time, I hope that you feel like you can identify your slope and your y-intercept, that you can see it in a graph, you can see it in an equation. You are going to work on the green worksheet tonight for homework. There's directions at the top, so it has an example if you're feeling confused. I believe it's 6 questions. And then once you're done with that, you can use your time wisely to finish the additional skills for IXL. A few people have asked me, what do you mean, but what sheet am I using it from? The sheet that you have been using for the whole unit is what you're using for this, okay? It's not a new sheet. You're just doing 4 more skills that you haven't done yet. So last Friday, 8 were due, and by this Friday, 4 more are due. So of the 13 skills on that sheet, you need to have 12 total done, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. All right, miss you guys. Hope you're having a good day, and email me if you have any questions.